But go ahead, Step. What did you have?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about how your event, like being raised evangelical, Mike, how that shaped your early idea of politics, and how that evolved over time and led you to where you are now, or at least led you to where you were when you first started your channel.
Yeah, I think that being raised evangelical kind of validates this idea that you can basically win over anybody with the right policies and like with a working class message. Because my dad was like very fundamentalist, my mom was too, and the rest of the family is, but my dad was never necessarily like exclusively Republican.
Hmm.
He was, I think the best way you can describe him would be as a Christian Democrat. It's not common in the US, but in Europe, there's a lot of Christian Democrat parties where they are conservative socially, but they're more liberal economically. And that's basically what my dad was. So he hated Clinton because my family was poor as shit.
Nice.
And when Bill Clinton signed welfare reform into law, my dad got hit by that and he was pissed.
Hmm.
Um, Huge supporters of George W. Bush because of the
Yeah.
Christianity, opposition to abortion, social issues, gay marriage.
Hmm.
But then my dad saw that George W. Bush got in and cut his own taxes and the taxes of his friends, and he was outraged. There was also the Iraq War. But then my
Right.
dad flipped back to Obama, believed in change, and then flipped away from Obama, but then hated Donald Trump because of the anti-immigrant rhetoric and also the tax cuts for the rich. So it's one of
Um,
those things where like the through line was always like there was this anti-establishment fervor with my dad who was working class, always got fucked over. When he finally created his own business, he got disabled and lost everything. So just constantly getting fucked by the system, not a sufficient safety net. And the one thing that always appealed to him was this message of economic security, being able to feed your family, having healthcare, stability.
yeah.
And that was always like the lowest common denominator. And if somebody like my dad, who was very much a political normie, didn't like he was a political person, but did not know shit about politics. I don't know if that makes sense, but like
No, right.
he liked to talk shit, but didn't really have the
Know what he's
stats
talking
to
about.
back it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds like a
exactly.
Yeah,
conservative, dude. It's
yeah,
superficial
Right.
reasoning.
Right.
They use all the superficial like arguments, the talking points that they get from Fox News, the distraction tactics. Usually, it's just a non sequitur. Like it's the art of
Mhm.
distraction. That's what.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it's the right wing magic trick where they're like, "Oh, America's the best. We never do anything wrong, except for, of course, the government, which we hate. But then we expect the government to save our ass in a natural disaster or go to
Mhm.
war and kick ass. And it's not a
yeah,
coincidence that the military is the best fucking finance part of our government. Like
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like these
Yeah.
people don't do any thinking for themselves. They just copy and paste what they hear.
And this is like
Mhm.
an issue that's just been like long lasting when it comes to, I mean, the left on its own, but also even the Democratic Party. They're not
Mhm.
as tuned into, or they don't utilize the messaging of economics as often as they should,
Mhm.
when it comes to economic policy or the current state of the economy, when it comes to investment and starting businesses and the best practices here and that. A lot of that you hear is from the fucking right.
Mhm.
Like, so people who aren't as like into politics but follow economics really closely, a lot of those are going to come from sources that are relatively right wing, because obviously the right wing, they serve capitalism, and in this current system of
Mhm.
economics, it's capitalism. And so I think the left and the Democrats could they could uh go really far when it comes to incorporating economics a lot more into their messaging, even
Mhm.
if it means um utilizing a lot of capitalist messaging uh, in their rhetoric and whatnot. um
When I say when I use I told the lefties, I said when I use capitalist terms, it's just because of my training. And like
Mhm.
marketing just means messaging. It just
mhm,
means communication. It just means the presentation of a value proposition. Branding just means reputation. What's the DSA's reputation? I want the DSA's reputation to be the spearhead of the anti-MAGA movement. Now, somebody in the DSA is going to be like, well, we as an organization should be about what we stand for, not what we stand against. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you don't win, then none of your ideas matter. So actually the 1-2 punch that we're talking about here with what we stand against and what we stand for starts with what we stand against. Unfortunately, there it is, the left needing to come to terms with the best strategic vision. It's not just like you guys talked earlier about the creative vision. What's the world that education care? It was so going to accumulate power, and that conversation for people who know politics like we do is okay, Democratic Party primaries. But for people like your dad or just these other superficial conservatives, they don't even understand the primary structure. They don't even understand the internal politics of the left. But whereas we understand the internal politics of the right, and it's just a matter of everyone doing their goddamn homework. I mean, I really feel like
and that's the thing, is they're not going to do their homework. And that's one thing that I've had to come to terms with, especially after this last election, is that you will never get Americans to do research before an election. So you have to do everything in your power to market your politics in the most normie friendly package imaginable. Because like thinking about my dad's politics, if he was still alive today, he would have been enthusiastic about Zoran Mamdani. Like over time, he definitely gravitated much more left leaning. He was very pro Bernie Sanders before he died. But like the idea that like he was always teetering on the edge of like evangelicism and like liberalism, it's always comes back to the working class message. Like if you have, you don't even have to talk about the isms or the ideology. If you just say, hey, should everybody have healthcare? Do you want your rent to be cheaper? That just that hits with anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. So this idea of like that we often hear from Democrats of limiting the parameters of what you should say, free this, free that. No, that's good, because when you say something is free, even though Republicans try to give that negative connotations, it hits hard with regular people. Because yes, healthcare should be free at the point of service. That's not actually controversial if you talk to regular people. You can this is how dumb people are that we're dealing with. You could ask them, hey, do you support Medicare for all? They would say, no, I don't. But then if you ask them, do you think healthcare should be free at the point of service? They'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. It reminds me of this Jimmy Kimmel segment where they were talking to people about like, hey, which do you prefer, the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare? And they'd be like, oh, the Affordable Care Act, hands down. Like, people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So you have to do everything in your power to jam the message of socialism down their throats. But like doing the cheese and pill tactic, right? Like get them to eat their vegetables by like putting chocolate over the fucking broccoli. I don't know. Like you can't, you got to do your best to hide your power level and like break it down in the most simplest terms imaginable that a fifth grader can understand it, a kindergartner can understand it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, as shitty as he is, James Carville had it right, and he continues to have it right when he urges to the Democrats, it's the economy, stupid. It's the kitchen table issues. Like, that messaging goes a long way.
But the Democratic establishment, I can tell you how the Democratic establishment, like Hakeem Jeffries, would respond to that. He would say we have talked about those things, but they always talk about them in the opposite way that Mike just described. They always talk about it in overly complex ways, and like tax credit this, subsidy that. It's not universal health care. Like, we're doing the New Deal again, and it's going to be called the next deal, because in 20 years we're probably going to have another deal where we restructure our society. It's called social evolution. It's called societal growth, and it's not always fun. No. In fact,
if you ever been like
more often than not, it's painful.
No, you're absolutely right. No, if you've ever been in sales, one thing that they'll tell you is that the customer is more likely to buy something if you put the product in their fucking hand, right? And that's one thing that Democrats have got to do is they can't just say, okay, if you qualify, you can apply for a tax credit at the end of the year. You need to put it in their hands. Like, you can't pass some policy that doesn't take effect until a couple of years. And like this is kind of what the abundance guys touched on a little bit as well. Like that's one element that like makes sense, of course, because Republicans kind of time their policies in a way to have maximum impact when they can like distance themselves from it. Like a lot of the provisions in the big beautiful bill don't take effect until 2028, which is when Democrats could potentially take power again, assuming we have free and fair elections.
Right.
But like it's not the problem with the Democrats is that if you listen to Hakeem Jeffries, he'll talk about the cost of living and affordability, but there's no actual concrete follow up on that. It's not.
Right.
It's like, hey, I get that things are expensive. I hear you, and sure, that's validating. Thank you for patting me on the head. But like, what specifically are you going to do?
Right. What's
And
the action plan?
The solutions aren't acceptable to them because any solution that they have would conflict with their donors. Medicare for all, their health insurance industry donors would not appreciate that. Property managers that donate to them and donate to Democratic Party super PACs wouldn't appreciate them saying rent freeze. Yeah, so like you have to come with the solutions, and that's what Zoran Mamdani did. He crafted his entire campaign around what people specifically wanted. He talked to them, hey, what's the biggest issue? And they said affordability. So he made his whole campaign around that. Like that's what Democrats have to do. But rather than doing that, they'll listen to what people want and then find ways to like use verbiage to drive them away from that onto some dumbass bullshit that they want to support. Like, some incrementalist approach to healthcare, not even a public option anymore, but instead additional tax credits or subsidies for the Affordable Care Act.
Oh my God.
It's such a clusterfuck. And that's why they're not resonating with the base. And they're not resonating with regular voters. When you look at Donald Trump, though, like it's just very in your face. We're going to do mass deportations. It's hey, we're going to, utilize our executive powers to accelerate, deport. Like he's just cutting straight through the bullshit, talking to people at a first grade level. And like, you really have to dumb it down. And that's why he's successful in part because we live in idiocracy and hell. Yes. And Democrats have to do the same thing. And it might sound condescending, but you kind of have to be condescending because in this era of fascism, when fascists are kind of winning, or they are winning, definitely, you can't afford to like tiptoe around things. You have to be direct and just say, hey, they're killing you. They're going to die. But when I say direct, it's kind of a contradiction because I also talk about like hiding the ball and hiding the power level a little bit. But like you need to reach voters in a very direct way. And Democrats are struggling with that. Whereas individuals like Zoran, AOC, Bernie, they're not struggling because again, they're tapping into an anger and specifically saying these are the reasons why you're hurting. It's not trans people or immigrants. It's billionaires. It's capitalism. And it's an oversimplified message, but you have to oversimplify it. And once you plant that seed, then you have an in with them. You're not just gonna like win over voters by saying, "Hey, comrades, let's seize the means of production and abolish capitalism."
Exactly.
You have to frame it in better terms, more terms that appeal to normies. You can't. You're a Democrat who's an elected. You can't just say, I believe in all Americans having access to healthcare. No, you have to say you're going to get healthcare, period. It's just like tweaking it. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but you know what I mean? Like we need to get better.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So go ahead, Dieter.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, the list of FDR's second Bill of Rights is what I always use as a concrete thing. I know FDR had a lot of problems. He wasn't a perfect president. The Okinawan internment camps being the most embarrassing thing that he ever did, in my opinion. But healthcare, education, housing, employment, farmers' rights, Social Security. Once we get all those taken care of, then we can argue about the isms, right? Like I think that's the way that, and everyone's rhetorical demand is going to be different because the districts are different. But yeah, he's done a masterful job of being like, I respect that question, even though I don't really respect the question. I'm going to talk about what I want, because this is what the way he handled the Israel bullshit was masterful.
Yes,
right.
I mean, for me, I would have been like, that question comes from AIPAC having so much power in America, and I resent the fuck out of you asking it. But let me go ahead and answer it anyway. See, I'm going to handle it differently. Like I'm not going to be sad, and we should I'll let you take us home, Stat Pat. But I advocated for it on this space, and they made a short of it. But WTF doesn't stand for what you think it does anymore. It stands for white trash fascism. That's what this is. And until somebody calls it white trash fascism, it's going to have a chance of coming back. It needs to be socially marginalized. Like, I'll know when we've won when I see Boston, New York, Philly, Chicago, DC, Baltimore, LA, San Francisco, Portland. There's no MAGA in gear in those cities, because people know that if they show up wearing MAGA paraphernalia in any of those cities, they're not going to get served at bars, restaurants, and clubs. They're not going to be welcome in public spaces for events. And, they're just not going to be welcome there. That's how I need the left to act. And why, it's kind of like, I'll finish with this dichotomy because I brought it up when I was working with Pastor Ben Dixon on this space. The difference between revenge and retribution, where revenge is the sense of personal satisfaction that comes from you hurting someone that hurt you. And it's usually disproportional, right? I'm not just going to hurt them like they hurt me. I'm going to hurt them 10 times worse. That's revenge. Retribution is justice. Retribution is a social punishment or other kinds of punishment or whatever compensation to the victims from the person who wronged them that is deemed appropriate by society. So that's my current challenge, is to balance like my utter hatred and thirst for revenge on this culture that not just ruined the country, but kind of ruined my family, and wanting to make a better America. Because I don't want the people who are like regretful Trump voters thinking that they're just going to come into, and this is something you've talked about in one of your videos, Mike, coming into the Democratic Party and expecting the Democratic Party to cater to them. Like, no, you're coming into this party to listen and learn, because there's something wrong with you. Like, you're on your way to dealing with it, but you still haven't dealt with it yet. What was in you that made you think it was a good idea to vote for Trump? And maybe not once, maybe not twice, maybe 3 times. Like, you got to look in the mirror. And then when you come to a DSA meeting, don't really talk for a few months. Like, just listen and do research, because you're not educated if you think that Donald Trump had any business becoming president of the United States.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Yeah, I want revenge 1,000%. These people destroyed the fucking country. It's not like we weren't already like on this trajectory, but they accelerated it. And there needs to be like, we need to have Nuremberg tribunals after this is
yes
what one way I think we get justice.
I want Stephen Miller in jail. I want Stephen Miller in jail. I mean, he's evil. He needs to go. He's Goebbels.
Big time. Yeah. So when it came to like the origin of your channel, Mike, what was like the catalyst? What were the jumping off points for you to where it was like, I am going to create a channel. I'm going to start covering politics regularly.
It was kind of not a serious idea for me for a very long time. I was trying to get just a little bit of public speaking experience. I was more of a writer, never a really good speaker at all. I still have issues, but I think I've improved. But it's always something you can work on. But I was gonna start teaching a course at college, and I was like, I kind of need to learn how to talk, and also I really needed a political outlet because I felt like I had so many ideas and a unique perspective, and I thought it'd be really cool to like have some kind of a platform. I don't know how serious I'm going to take it. And I didn't take it super serious for the first year, but it kind of was something that took off on its own. I was really lucky to start when I did, honestly. I feel very fortunate because a lot of people don't have that luxury these days. It's very, very difficult to find your footing on YouTube.
Yes.
But in that first week, I posted videos, and the Bernie Sanders video I posted blew up. And when I say blew up, it got like 300 views.
Was it?
Which was a lot.
Was it the one where I think it was someone on? God, what was it? I think it was like CNBC or someone, a guest came on basically saying that he donated the maximum amount allowable to the Bernie Sanders campaign because of because of how because how much he disliked Hillary Clinton. I think that was like the first video I ever saw of yours. You probably know what I'm talking about, but
that video actually made it to the front page of Reddit, and I privated the video.
Right? Oh, really?
Once it got to the front, I'm like, I don't want this much fucking notoriety. Like,
oh no,
I'm doing this to just. Yeah, no, I was like freaking out. I'm like, I don't want like all eyes on me. I just kind of want to talk about politics to a relatively small group of people. So I wasn't sure if I even wanted the smoke. There are times like where I'm like, I might just delete all these videos.
That's so funny.
Because it's not, I don't know. I was never very serious about it. So when it started to take off, it was like, oh, do I really want to be on the internet? Like this, like, do I want my face everywhere? But yeah, now it's that choice has been made, and there's no taking it back.
Out of the bag, dude. Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle on that one.
It's what got me.
Yeah,
it's what got me interested in your channel. I mean, I probably like subscribed right after that video. It's just like, yeah, Bernie, let's go. So, in terms of your political journey, because I kind of feel the same way. I started my channel in like early-ish 2020 because I've been following politics for so long. At that point, I feel like I could offer a unique perspective, and I just, it's been a very slow, gradual rise over the past 5 years. But what in terms of your political ideology over the past 10 years, I've basically seen you go from a progressive to like, oh yeah, I'm just out and out socialist. What were some like major turning points for you in terms of your political ideology?
I think mostly it was dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party and understanding just how entrenched the donors were, and kind of connecting the dots between that and the broader economic system and the way it reinforces itself, not just in the United States, but around the world. And kind of little by little forming a much more anti-capitalist orientation. If you watch the show, I almost never refer to myself as a socialist, but I'll criticize capitalism just to kind of like hide the powerlism. I don't know, honestly, what I am. I think a socialist is probably the best characterization. I'm probably somewhere between socialism and communism, whereas I believe in like a moneyless society. I don't necessarily agree with the abolition of the state because I don't have a lot of faith in human beings. So I'm somewhere between there.
Yes.
We're between socialism,
boat,
socialism, communism, somewhere around there. It doesn't really matter because what I'm arguing for is nowhere near that. I'm not going to see a socialist or a communist culture in my lifetime, unfortunately.
Right.
But trying to move the needle in that direction and away from capitalism is kind of like, that's where I'm at. So I think I'm anti-capitalist. That's how I describe myself, because I think it's a good entry point for people who aren't scared necessarily, because I'm not saying I'm a socialist. That's a boogeyman word, but they agree that there are reasons why capitalism has failed. So hearing me out and explaining why what we're seeing now is the logical conclusion to all capitalist systems, I feel like it's kind of helped, because I remember back in like, I don't know, it was like 2018, 2019. And like one of my family members was like, "Are you a socialist?" So I was talking about Bernie Sanders. And they were just so turned off by the label itself. And I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to like appeal to people who are automatically like, that's a non-starter to them.
Well, you just say, "Have you ever heard of Social Security?" And they say yes, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's socialism." That's usually
I think that's a really clever way to do it for sure. Because if you familiarize it, that makes it better. But like trying to just, I don't even care where people land, honestly, as long as it's like anti-capitalist. If you're a communist or an anarchist or a socialist, I think all of these people are my allies. Leftist, progressives as well. Liberals, depending. It depends on the issue, right?
Right.
But like, as long as we're anti-capitalist, that has to be a broad coalition.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what I guess I'm trying to create. I don't really know. I just like want to live in a better country. And that's not like falling apart at the seams. And so that's what I'm trying to like.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to nudge people in in that direction,
Of course.
I have to do more research, but I'm pretty sure that all these isms that we're talking about were defined before the global economy as we know it was established. Like all of these
a lot has changed.
A lot of these thinkers weren't aware of the global village as it has come to be today. So
right.
the framework that they were coming into, like it's pretty funny, right? When the conservatives try to use the framers as like demigods.
Yeah.
They say, oh, what would the framers do? It's like the what would Jesus do thing. It's the same propaganda, just a different context. And it's like the framers could never have conceived of the country expanding across the continent, much less a global interdependent economy defined by trains, planes, and automobiles and the internet and, internet porn. Like, I mean, they could never have conceived of the world that we live in. So stop projecting onto these isms is what I would encourage people to do. The labels, and get rid of those labels with all their cultural baggage and just talk problems and solutions. And that's, I think, what you just said is in line with my belief system too, where I don't know if I'm a progressive, I don't know if I'm a socialist, but I do know that we were on a really good track with FDR and we were in the right direction, and we got steered off of that track a couple of different ways at a couple of different times. And it's time for someone to assert themselves as the greatest generation since the greatest generation.
Yeah.
And since all three of us are millennials, we're all in agreement that it's going to be the millennials, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, baby.
No, and just to like put a pin in what you said there, I think that what we should be doing is not leading with like our label and leading with what we want for society, like a society where people are taken care of, where you never have to worry about sleeping on the streets, where you're not in debt. Like describe the society and then attach the isms to that however you want to afterwards. I don't give a shit. Like lead with the vision. That's basically what I think I'm trying to do. And I think you all are doing it as well to a really good degree.
Was there ever a point in your I guess political upbringing where you weren't of the left, or you didn't have you didn't consider yourself part of the left, and then somehow that changed?
Probably when I wasn't super politically formed. When I was a later teenager, I started to I just supported Republicans by default because my family was conservative and evangelical at the time. So I supported that. But when I started to go to school and pay attention to the Iraq War and started to learn about things, that's when I started to switch over to not necessarily a leftist or liberal, but just like anti-Republican. I think I was safe saying that I was a Democrat back then, just a Democratic Party normie who didn't like war, still hated Hillary Clinton. I just, that neoliberalism that I remember my dad talking about, and how, the welfare policies destroyed our family. So I was always like, as soon as I was able to really form cohesive political thoughts, or at least cohesive political thoughts, it was me being a progressive, like supporting Barack Obama being my first vote. I was old enough to vote when he was running, and that was my number one vote. It was all about the Iraq War. I just wanted to end the Iraq War, and Hillary voted for it. So for me, that was like a non-starter. I was a young man who graduated into the Great Recession, and I wanted to have a future. So, bold change was automatically something that I was opting for. So as soon as I could basically form a political opinion, I was progressive and started to move further and further to the left as I got older, for sure.
Right. That's kind of like that the first, like the earliest portion of my life is like, that's how it was for me as well. Like the default was, oh, my family is Republican, therefore, like my earliest political memories, aside from watching, Obama's inaugural speech, was the 2012 election, and like because my family doesn't like Obama, I was hoping Romney would win. But as time went on, and the more exposure I got, like I remember someone trying to claim to me on Facebook that Obama was a Marxist, and I was like, well, I remember learning about Marxism in high school, And this guy doesn't seem like a Marxist at all. Like, what exactly are people talking about? But being exposed to Bernie and then becoming disillusioned by the Democratic establishment screwing him over, and just sitting out the 2016 election, and then I don't know what it was over time, but I kind of got a bit more okay. This is just my trajectory. More okay with
Mhm.
like, okay, well, let's see what Trump does. Let's see exactly what he's about. Give him a chance, and this and that. And like, I kind of flirted with like the rising, uh, you know, conservative media at the time and how prominent that was becoming, and just the endless defending of Trump. And a lot of people don't really, if you weren't around back then, especially following politics, how a lot of that media sphere evolved from the atheism community, and then the Gamergate community,
Right.
and then it just all kind of like coalesced together, and like it split off eventually. But a lot of it was like based in skepticism, and then there was like a big falling out. But what ended up happening was, because I was following all those atheist channels and those skeptic community channels, it got to a point to where I noticed a lot of these channels ended up just defending Trump and Trumpism
Mhm.
without question. And when it came around to the 2018 midterms, especially, I noticed a lot of these skeptics or these anti-SJW channels were not being honest in their coverage at all, especially when it came to the rise of AOC. And
Mhm.
they were not covering her honestly at all. They were not representing her ideas honestly, like whatsoever. So it's like, well, what the hell? Like, if you guys call yourself skeptics, but you're not being honest about this. But the thing that really did it for me, where it was like, okay, I can't deal with anything Trump related with anymore, was his pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
just like we see today the consequences of such a disastrous decision. It was around that time where I got introduced to Kyle Kalinske, because at that point I was watching, Sargon of a God. I don't know if you remember that guy,
I
but
do
like,
remember him.
that
Yeah.
that that dumb fucking piece of shit. But Kyle Kalinske was really like the guy that drove me from being like a centrist to being like of the left, being a progressive. And then it was
Mhm.
eventually like various breadtube channels, ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube, some more news, Vosh especially, that made me a full throated socialist. So like it can happen. Like if enough
Mhm.
if enough uh influences there, like you could end up like me, like you get dragged back to the left because of just the idiocy of the right wing. So I'm
What I think one thing that I think is encouraging to like
Mhm.
try to be a little bit more hopeful is that if you are naturally an empathetic, caring person, you're gonna probably find your way back to the left. Maybe you get
Bingo.
led astray because something bad happens. Like there's this meme about like divorced dads online that like grow bitter because their
Yeah,
family left them and their children don't want anything to do with them, so they
really
become
though.
conservatives. Like you can go through a time in your life where you kind of like you stray off the path. Maybe you're a young man. Like we talk about young men and male
Hmm.
loneliness. You can't get a
Yes.
girlfriend, so you start to fall victim to these predatory men on YouTube, Andrew Tate and whatnot. But I think that like at the end of the day, and this is kind of like an evangelical meme about how Jesus will always like he'll bring you back to the flock, even if he has to break your legs and carry you. I feel like if you're an empathetic person, you will naturally find your way back to the left because
Yes.
the right is just, especially nowadays, they're so mask off or hood off, I should say,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
where you can't feel good. You've got to know that like what they're selling
No, really
is
though.
vile. So I think that
Yeah.
like if you're a good person, you're gonna find your way back. But unfortunately, not everybody is
Totally
a
agree.
good person. Some of them are shit
No,
people. Some of them are evil. So Yeah, that's why I think like for you it was inevitable. You just needed like some folks to guide you in the right
Right.
direction.
No, exactly, because like at the time it was like, okay, I can't be fully on board with like, wow, these anti-Jew and these racist jokes that are a bit too prominent in these circles. It's just like you guys are just cruel for the sake of being cruel. So
Yeah.
like the empathy definitely was always there, but when it comes to like MAGA and like these far right figures, it's just like you're such miserable fucking people. I can't imagine
They are.
like how it would be to be so soulless and just like hate people you don't even know for no goddamn reason at all. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was inevitable because I do consider myself that kind of person. But like, there are definitely people that are too far gone for damn sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.